Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss sales made easy.
Is I had to find those elements about me. And that's what I would encourage people to do, is do a true assessment of themselves to whether you're in a leadership role or you're in a sales role. And you've got to be honest with that person in the mirror. If you can't be honest about your performance and what you are doing and what you know you should be doing, and are the two connecting, you won't reach the potential that you need to. And
The lovely Sales Made Easy listener. Hope you're having an awesome day because we have an awesome guest. He is the author of a book called Unleashed Potential: Simple Steps to Be the Best Version of Yourself. And that person is none other than Jeff Forrester. So Jeff is the guy. He has been in sales for over 30 years in retail, technology, and healthcare. He's also a leadership coach. He also dabbles in real estate. So we're going to talk about sales and leadership today with Jeff Forrester. So Jeff, welcome to the Sales Made Easy podcast. What's a good word, my friend?
hey, how are you? It's good to see you again. It's been a while since we've had our COVID coffee.
Our COVID coffee, outdoors, social distancing, trying not to breathe on each other. Yes. But
Yeah.
it was great to meet you that day, and we did a little book exchange. So
Yeah, we
talk
did.
to me, Jeff. What's going on in your world?
What is not going on? It is a wild ride. So when we first met, I was right at the beginning of a brand new self-employment journey. So I'd been in corporate America since 1997 in some element or another. Again, whether that was in pharmaceutical sales, diagnostic sales, lab sales, leadership, marketing, one of those elements for the past, now what, almost 20, this would have been 25 years, which is
Wow.
crazy.
You're way
And
too young to be doing something for 25 years other than living.
that's right. I started as a young lad. Um, and then prior to that, I was in retail with my dad's business. And then eventually after his passing, my mom and I took it over. So I've been in sales forever, and I've been in the
Wow.
workforce forever. So it was a scary moment. So in December, I was laid off from my corporate job. And anybody who's been in the healthcare sales field knows that it is a wild roller coaster of layoffs and expansions and then layoffs. And it's just this, expand and contract type nature. They just get a share of voice. And then once they realize they don't need it, then they contract and then they expand again. And it's a very volatile space to operate. So I finally got to the point where I was just over it. And over the past few years, had just really been thinking about that entrepreneurial spirit of owning my own business, running my own business, because I had seen my dad do it. My grandparents had done it. So I've come from a long line of entrepreneurship, but I was exposed, and I think we talked a little bit about this when we met, is that I saw the ugly side of entrepreneurship, of just the constant grind every single day, not making a tremendous amount of money, no vacations, no retirement, no benefits. So all those things I saw, not what social media shows now, this entrepreneurial world of being able to do whatever you want to do, when you want to do it. And there's some elements and truth to that. But anybody who's been self-employed knows if you're not working and moving forward, you're not making progress. You're actually regressing because somebody else is making up ground as you go. So I made the decision in December to dive into that world. I say all that to go into and really promote my book more. So I did very little promotion of my book in 2021. And then also I've been wanting to start a coaching consulting business. And so my wife and I made the decision that 2022 was going to be our leap year, our leap of faith year, as to go into what we didn't know what would happen. We've been good with our money and have enough runway to get us through a year without impacting our lives very much. And so with that, I also, you talked about dabbling in real estate. That's another big element that I'm getting into as well, which is sales. And it's been a lot of fun. Again, sales are sales, but there's just a lot of different nuances that come with each one. And hopefully throughout the year, as I continue to grow and add coaching clients and have some home sales, that I'll continue to be able to move that finish line further and further to give myself more than a year to really accomplish that. So a long answer to your question.
My
I
goodness.
was
Yeah.
just catching
So
you up.
thank you. This is great. So, a year in the life of Jeff Forrester. So you bring up something that about the past and watching your dad run his business, and if I recall, he passed at a relatively young age, right? And
It
then
was
you were,
48.
yeah, and so then you were, you were making these observations still as a teenager, if I recall. And so when you look at the entrepreneurial world today versus what you saw with your dad, why did you say, yeah, I'm going to jump into this?
I think there were some elements of just adventure
Hmm.
and really being able to take ownership. And I've preached a lot to a lot of people. And now it was that moment to practice what I preach. And so many people in sales leadership, they talk a great game. But if they're removed from that position and they're put back on the front lines, they would flounder because they've been removed from it
Right.
for so long and they've lived in a vacuum. It's so easy in a leadership role to live in a vacuum because you're just telling somebody what they should do. That's easy.
Right. That's real
um,
easy.
because armchair quarterback, everybody has the solution to the
Yeah.
situation. And for me, I've been learning this over the past 4 years, basically, of how to practice what I preach. And it's not as easy as anybody would think. And I would challenge any leader that's out there is to take an opportunity to have their own territory, to have their own customers that they have to nurture. They have to deliver hard news. They have to close. And it's not as easy as it used to be. And for me, in my leadership time, I've always told myself, don't forget what it was like.
Right.
Don't forget the things that you're telling someone. Is it going to be easy for them to put into play? Or how would you respond to that if you told them that or said that? And there's times, of course, that I've messed up, terribly. Overall, though, I really still try to focus on that. And now I'm coaching myself in my head.
Hmm.
And sometimes I don't listen to me.
Yeah. What else is going on in that head of yours?
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation. We don't have enough time today.
Oh, I just love it. Okay, so I love what you just said about sales leaders actually being involved in sales to some degree because you're absolute right. Some just love the corner office, just telling people what to do, and they're totally out of touch, right? So what happens typically, right, when a leader becomes out of touch with reality? What do they start thinking it's easy, right? So they think it's easy for everyone else. Just do the things I say. Everything will be magical. Life is good. And then what happens when it isn't, right? What are some of the things that you've seen over the years with
Well, a
that?
lot of it is just the conversations. Like you said, I remember having conversations with my director and then with my direct team is leadership team was if I went back into the field, I would crush it. Absolutely crush it with what I know. What you know and what you do is two completely different things.
Right.
Um, and so I would say everybody has the element of both of those, whether you've ever been in leadership or you haven't. And the connection between a good salesperson and a great salesperson and a bad salesperson is making that transition of doing what you know you should do on a consistent basis. And if you don't know what to do, that's when a good leader steps in, coaches, develops, and instructs different things that could make them more efficient, because it's hard to coach will. You can coach skill. Now you can also smash will as a leader. And I don't know if this is going to your question, but
No, I love it. Yep.
there was a really good book that I read. It was one of the first leadership books that I ever read. I was going to see if I could grab it real quick. It's called
Okay.
Zap. Have you heard of it?
No, but do tell.
So it's called Zap,
Okay.
The Lightning of Empowerment. And the elements that I remember of the book is, you can, as a leader, you can either increase will, so you can get someone excited about their job, or you can actually crush their spirit,
Yeah.
and you can make them inefficient, unproductive based on the way you interact with them. And so to me, it's that empowerment perspective. It's been a long time since I've read the book, and I need to read it again. But that was the big improvement, or the element that I remember about the book is, it says how to improve quality, productivity, and employee satisfaction. And another book along those same lines is Well Done. Have you read that one?
No. All right. So you're making me look like an idiot. Come
No,
on
no,
now.
no, no. Well,
Just kidding.
these are random.
I'll tell you
books.
what I have read. I read a couple of comic books. I read the sports section. No, I'm just kidding.
For those of us in the Orlando area, Well Done is about the killer whale trainer.
Oh, yeah.
And he wrote this book, and I have it. I'm not going to stand up again.
Okay.
But it's a short book. It's about the size of like the 1 Minute Manager and some of those.
I have read that.
Yeah,
Ask me if I read that.
I found one. Have you read Selling with Have you read Selling with Dignity?
Yeah, I've read that one too. Thank you.
But the book is really good because it talks about how when you're dealing with killer whales, you're not hitting them with sticks, and you're not supposed to. That's a whole nother conversation, but is they remove them from doing the things that they enjoy to do to get to reinforce to get the action and the response that they desire, the outcome that they desire. So there's different elements of, you've got to find, it boils down to, you have to find someone's motivation and what will get them to stay on track and to then continue to prosper and move. So I would guess that would be, to go back to your question, and please correct me if I'm not answering your question, for me is I had to find those elements about me. And that's what I would encourage people to do, is do a true assessment of themselves, to whether you're in a leadership role or you're in a sales role, and you've got to be honest with that person in the mirror. If you can't be honest about your performance and what you are doing and what you know you should be doing, and are the two connecting, you won't reach the potential that you need to. And so that's, to me, part of that importance. In the book, I talk about the importance of communication. That's internal and external communication. It's, are you telling yourself, hey, I know I can do more? Or are you listening to that lie of like, you know what, it's okay. You don't need to make that extra call, or you don't need to send that email or that text or something to continue to move forward. And like I said, it's not easy because you're the only one that you're accountable to. You can tell other people, hey, I did this, this, and this, but did you? And did you do with consistency? And that's the element that we both know in sales. It's the integrity. And like you have, selling with dignity, it's also the integrity is, are you doing the things that you know you should do when nobody's looking? Are you living to the standard that you hold yourself to, or you hold others to, but then not doing it yourself? And that was one of my early learnings when I shifted from a leadership role back into an individual contributor role, is I had said all these things to all these people for a decade. Now it's time to do it. And I would coach myself and be do a ride along with myself and say, okay, like let's talk about that. What went well? What didn't go well? What are you going to do differently next time? Should you have gone down that hall and talked to that person? Or did you just allow the introvert within you to say, nah, I'm good. I don't need to talk to them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's great stuff. So you just touched on like a post sales call recap, right? Where you're having a discussion with your sales leader. And I'm willing to bet a lot of people who are entrepreneurs don't do, I mean, don't even think about doing what you just did. So you're at a huge, I don't want to say advantage, but it's an advantage for someone who has a bit of a sales background is to analyze pretty much every sales call or everything that they're doing during the day. So yeah, I want to talk, but I'm gonna say, you tell me, where is the benefit of that, if you don't mind?
The benefit is not making a repeated mistake. Or, and mistake might even be a harsh word. It may be that I didn't make a mistake. I just didn't do something that I should have done to make the call go better, to
Mm-hmm.
make the conversation go better, to make the transition from I've closed the sale. Now, how am I going to nurture the relationship after the sale? So it's not just transactional, and figuring out, okay, this person that bought from me is a critical component to someone else being connected to me, because it's a relationship game. Sales is a relationship game. And if I'm having a poor relationship with myself and evaluating my performance, then how can I expect somebody else to honestly do it as well? And so for me, that's a big learning. And I would say that's come from my corporate training.
Mm-hmm.
And we all roll our eyes at corporate training and these sales weekends that we have to go to and classes, but it's a big investment that these companies make. And whether you believe in it or not, you should really listen to it and evaluate what you can learn from it and then what you can continue to use. And all it's going to do is make you better. And moving forward, then you can start to apply a lot of the things that you've learned and make it your own, and not just have to follow a quote unquote formula.
Yeah, I love it. So this thing here about, evaluating what your activities are and how you're doing things and so forth. It's really about being aware, right? When you're in a situation, and I see you nodding your head here. So when you're in a situation where you don't necessarily need to be aware, right? You could not even analyze. You could just go through the motions, make calls, and say, "Well, I'm going to just keep calling till someone says yes or whatever. Keep calling till someone says they're interested or I can get a meeting or something." And whatever the number of calls is, if we don't analyze what is happening on those calls, we're not going to make progress, right? So this idea of being aware, like I've read books on awareness and leadership, um, and I'm not saying that because you asked me if I've read books, all right? I am saying that because it's top of mind for me as to how valuable awareness is in sales. And the things that you're doing is really tied into that. So, am I throwing you off on that to dive into that a little bit?
No, no, awareness is so critical. What I would say also, Harry, an element of that is planning. So you can be aware, but what are you aware of? Are you aware of how many calls did you make today? Well, how many did you plan to make?
Mm-hmm.
And could you have made more? Are you aware of obstacles that potentially can come up, and how do you navigate through those? And so all the elements of awareness, in my opinion, come from laying it out beforehand. So then that way you can evaluate your performance of how many calls did you want to make? How long did you want to work on making post or doing research, or, honing your craft? One of the things right now that they've encouraged in real estate is to get a copy of the as is contract and read it and read it and read it and read it. And so, have I read it as many times as I should? No. Have I read it? Yes. One of the things they talked about, read it 3 times a day. Just sit down and read through it. And if I hadn't have heard that number, I'd say, yeah, I've read it. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not anywhere close to 3 times a day because there's plenty of things that get in the way. So now I'm just trying to break it down into sections, is say, okay, I'm not able to read the whole thing every single day. Can I at least just grab a paragraph
Right.
while I'm sitting here? So that's the awareness
Yeah.
of just figuring out what's going to work. But until you start to break things down and lay it out of what you want to accomplish, can you ever see the progress or lack of progress that you're making with that plan?
Yeah, I love it. So the whole idea there on the plan, well, I'm just curious, why read a contract 3 times a day? This is the as is for sale, house for sale contract.
Correct.
And why read it? Why do you have to be that familiar with it?
Well, one is everything you've buying or selling a home hinges around that contract. And so to be able to give your buyer or seller the proper expectations and to help them through the process, you need to know what they're going to see in there. Because in
Mm-hmm.
there, it lays out who has what closing costs that are coming up. It gives you time frames that are standard that you can also move around. It gives you addendums that you could do. So there's a lot of different things that are in there that when you're making this sizable of a purchase or a sale, you should, as a salesperson, you need to know your material. And
Right.
our job is to protect either the buyer or the seller, and that's the sole responsibility of a realtor. They think it's just marketing and selling your home, but
Right.
it's actually protecting them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that, having a good understanding of what that contract shows then transfers confidence. So I think we talked about this when we were together. Sales to me is a transfer of confidence, that if I'm not confident in what I'm talking about and what I'm selling, I can't transfer that to you. So why would you want to buy from me if I go, Harry, I don't know. I
Right.
don't know. Like
Yeah.
every question you ask me, I'm like, I don't know. Now,
Mm-hmm.
saying I don't know is perfect when you literally don't know. But if you answer that to every single question, you're not conveying a whole lot of confidence to the other person. Now, they may be patient and say, okay, well, let's see if he finds out. And there's been elements like, oh, I don't know. I got to call my
Right.
mentor. And that's where humble pie comes into
Mm-hmm.
play. Is here I am, almost 50 years old, been in sales forever. I feel like I'm a 19-year-old rookie again because I
Yeah.
don't know real estate, and I know it a lot more now than I did because I was aware and didn't come in overconfident,
Yeah.
and then have tried to build my confidence and my knowledge of market statistics. So when I'm having a conversation with someone, I come across as knowledgeable because I know the local data. And then with the contract of just knowing those different things. So it would be in your world or any other sales world is you have to know your product and you've got to
Sure.
know it well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's really great. I mean, so most people are not thinking about these things when they're selling their home, right? So, I mean, mistakes people make, like they'll hire a realtor because, their cousin's in real estate or their neighbor is in real estate. Maybe they sell one house a year. Who knows, right? So they could be hiring someone that has no real marketing skills, and this or whatever. Maybe they don't know the contract, or maybe they'll miss out on opportunities to protect the client and so forth. So people who are not in sales, who are selling their home, think that all real estate agents are pretty much the same. So you just pick one, right? So it's my neighbor. Oh, you're a realtor? Great. I'm going to be selling my house. So I might as well use you, which means really nothing as far as potential skill sets. And so what you're describing here, I probably didn't think about when I was, it's just like, oh, and I'm probably not asking enough questions. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, about asking questions? Yeah.
Well, about this idea of why you don't want to necessarily just pick a real estate agent because you know somebody.
Right. Well, I think it just comes down to what all do they bring to the table. So one of the things that I look at is people shouldn't devalue the experience that they have. So yes, I'm new to real estate. I'm going to be candid, and I don't hide that fact. what I do bring is I bring 30 years of sales and leadership and marketing and knowing customers and knowing how to ask questions and shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's such a critical component to know what you should and shouldn't do. And then the other element is being transparent and helping set proper expectations up front. That's where this contract comes into play, is having a buyer's presentation or a listing presentation and saying, look, let's get the contract out. Let's go through this and show you, what does an as is contract mean for you as a buyer? You know, what do you need to come and be prepared so the buying experience is as least stressful as it possibly can be. And so those are things, if you don't know the contract beforehand, and I'm like you, Harry, I never read any of those things
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. I put all of my trust in that person that was representing
Right.
me,
Yeah.
which can be foolish.
Yeah.
It could cost you lots of money and lots of headaches later if you don't ask those questions up front. And for me, that's my way that I want to go, is be transparent up front. And the preamble to the National Association of Realtors is the golden rule: treat others as you would want to be treated. And I
Mm-hmm.
take that very seriously. And that's part of my standard of who I am, is I'm going to treat you exactly in the way that I'd like to be treated. That's with honor, respect, integrity, trustworthy, and be open and honest with people as we go through that relationship, which every salesperson should do if they want to sell with dignity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and be proud of what they do. But you can't do that if you don't know the material. And that's that self-awareness that you asked me about earlier. I have to be aware of what I know and what I don't know, and
Yeah.
what am I good at? Sales. What are my weaknesses? Specific real estate language and contract information. I'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
No
doubt
doubt.
that I'll learn it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I have to be open and honest with myself, as that is a big weakness, and it will cost me clients, because some of them will go, you know what? I really want somebody that's got 20 years of experience.
Sure.
I get it. I
Yeah.
completely understand. And I communicate. I'm also bringing a team with me of mentors and personal friends that I know that have 20 plus years of experience. So it's not just me coming with with this
Right.
relationship. I'm bringing everybody with me to
Mm-hmm.
make you feel comfortable and confident about the experience.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So this whole idea of learning the new product and becoming right, I can see the sales side of you, right? Because you're so confident in saying it's a new product and I will get it, right? Just like anything in sales, we have to understand that. So how does, like, one of the things that real estate agents and they miss out because they don't necessarily get the coaching that we get in corporate. So we spoke about this, that you have people who leave the school system and say, I want to sell houses or whatever the industry, right? Where they just don't have the sales background. How can these people typically, what is something that they could do that will help them to be better in sales that they may not be thinking about? That may be something that you pick up on. What's your thought?
A process. I
Yeah.
think it's a process, and then surrounding yourself with people that will hold you accountable, that you feel you can trust,
Mm-hmm.
that will push you and challenge you, at the same time not belittle you. There can be a
Yeah.
fine line with that,
Mm-hmm.
and where, again, it's the successful salesperson becomes a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens in real estate. You have real estate agents who've been successful that see an opportunity to build a business, so they become a broker. They become a broker, then they want more agents under them, because that's how they grow their business and scale their business and make more money. But just because you're a successful salesperson doesn't mean you're a successful coach and leader. And that's where that transfer of information starts to stop. They say, oh, I'll teach you, I'll do all these things for you. But then the poor new agent kind of goes, well, I don't know what to do next. There's so much information that gets bombarded. There's an interesting statistic that 7 out of 10 new real estate agents don't make it through the first year. And then I believe it's 80% of that 30% don't make it in year 2 through 3. I think it
Hmm.
is. So there's a lot of agents, but it's very top heavy in the sense of, I think it's anywhere between 80, it's the 80-20 rule, 80 to 90% make up, or 10 to 20% make up 80 to 90% of the sales. And that's a big gap. And it's because a lot of people don't get the coaching, the mentoring, they don't have the self discipline to sit down and grind on this thing at the beginning. I mean, I was able to, I took my class, received my license at the end of January, and here we are in April. And it's tough. It is really tough growing your business. It would just be, going into any sales without any relationships and having to start. And just you grind every day. You're making phone calls. You're trying to figure out where are their leads coming from. You have to remove the idea of asking questions and telling people what you're doing now. So, to go back to what your question is, those are things that I've identified that people don't get. And new agents, again, when you go into this, it's hard to hire a coach. And that's where, if you can, they should. And a coach that's willing to listen, and whether you need an instructional coach in real estate to give you the processes and teach you the
Hmm.
processes, but there's a lot of free resources out there as well. So if you find the free resources, is surround yourself with people that may be in a similar situation. There's tons of Facebook groups for new agents. There's tons of free things that you can do, but it's so important to surround yourself with people that can relate to the struggle and the
Hmm.
pain that you're currently in, that are going to go, Jeff, quit telling me how hard it is, because I'm right there with you
Yeah.
and we can get through it together. It's promoting a book. That's why
Yeah.
we get along. We
Right.
both know of how hard it is to promote a book and get the word out. And you have some successes, and then all of a sudden things dry up. Then you have some successes. And it's, at least for me, seeing these people who have this book week after week after week on the New York bestseller, it didn't necessarily happen overnight, especially if you're unknown and just a guy from Orlando. And that was
Yeah.
me. And, of course I would love my book to be on the New York bestseller. I don't know if it even is worthy of that, but I know that it's got valuable information that's in there that can help people. And that's the other element, is they can buy your book, they can buy my book, and that's for $20 or less. You can get a lifetime of coaching in a book,
Right.
but it requires you to have the self-discipline of the things that you read to put into play. And that's where most people struggle, is having that. They're good about consuming knowledge, poor at executing the knowledge that they've learned.
Right. Yeah. I often wonder about the number of books. Is it quantity, or is it, do you take something out of the, just taking a book that could be like a coaching book? I mean, I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer, and one of his recent recommendations someone gave me was something like Excuse Be Gone, or Excuses Be Gone. I've never heard of the book, and I got it on Audible, and I'm listening to it, and it's like I I should just stop and meditate pretty much on every sentence, right? Because that could be a life changing book for some people. I mean, it will change aspects of my life. Like one of the things that, and I'm going off on a tangent here,
No, go, because I
but
want to hear.
all right, it's okay, good. So one of the things that he speaks about is the animal kingdom is content with being in the moment. And I'm at an age where I think about the future and getting things done before I croak. And I joke about it, but I mean, it's like when you realize that you're on the other side of the hourglass, then your mortality, or my mortality, kicks in. And then I find myself thinking about the future. And then sometimes I'm looking about the past and I'm thinking about mistakes or what I could have done differently. And he just says, look at the animals. I mean, look at, whatever. I mean, I can picture my dogs chasing a stick. The dog is in the moment. The dog is not thinking about, well, what happens after I chase a stick? Will I be tired? Well, how many more years left of chasing sticks do I have? Right? I mean, right? So animals don't think about these things. And his encouragement is to live life in the moment and to be present. And I went, oh my God. I mean, it's like that so struck a chord with me that I mean, all of us, our minds go 50 million directions throughout the day. I mean, I forget the number of thoughts that come across our mind, but just being in the moment is just so valuable. And I could reread that sentence, listen to it, meditate on it, and then say, what does that mean for this right now? Right. And that's where I think there is tremendous value. So, did that disappoint? What's your thought?
That did not disappoint whatsoever. And to me, hopefully your listeners will hit pause and rewind it and think about that, because when you were talking about it, the thing that kicked into my mind, animals don't have an imagination. They don't imagine, well, what is, like, if I throw the ball and my dog go gets it and
Yeah.
brings it back, he's not, I'm guessing, he's not thinking, well, if I don't bring it all the way back, what is he going to think about me? Or if I don't catch it, what is he going to think about me? He's just going to jump up and try to catch it. If he
Right.
catches it, he's really excited. If he doesn't, he picks it up and he's still really excited. And that was what was coming to my mind when you were saying those things, is how often do I imagine the outcome? And so I ruin the moment because I'm thinking of what the potential outcome is in my imagination. And usually my imagination is negative. If I say
Interesting.
this is what they're going to say,
Yeah.
and this is what's going to happen. So I can't say it that way. And then I get into this vicious cycle. So I'm not in the moment. I'm thinking ahead
Yeah.
of the moment and ruining where I'm at right now.
Right. And so in sales, right? So let's just take that into sales. How can people benefit by being in the moment in sales?
I think that's where you being genuine and open and honest and candid comes into play. Now you want to have tact and you want to be polite. At the same token, is just put it out there. Like, ask for the sale. If you've earned the right, and you know if you've earned the right, ask for it.
Right.
Don't have an imagination of, well, what if they say no? Then I'm not going to get back in there. And I'm gonna, just ask. If you've earned it and you know their needs and you know the product that you have will meet their needs, ask. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's uncomfortable, it's because you haven't done some of those things beforehand. You haven't asked the right questions. You don't know if it fits their needs. And if it doesn't fit their needs, say, you know what? I don't think this product's going to be what you're looking for. So I appreciate your time. Let me ask you this, Harry. Do you know anybody that my product may be a better fit for?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and again, it's easy for you and I to sit here and say that. It's harder to put it into play and put it into action. But that's where, again, practice and being in the moment is saying, okay, well, look, this one didn't work out, but how can I make this better? And that
Sure.
person may appreciate your honesty and appreciate you being forthcoming and not trying to cram your product down their throat when they clearly don't need it. They may need it one day,
Right.
and they'll call you because they saw how sincere you were and how open you were, and they may again refer you to somebody that would buy multiple products that you have. And so everything is a relationship, and everything can move you forward and making connections. And so if you don't make everything transactional, then it's not as uncomfortable. And so one of the things that I wrote, I have a ton of sticky notes. When you're making phone calls, this is that internal communication and external communication part, is I'm going to make a friend today.
Right.
Not
Love
that
it.
I'm going to make a sale today. I'm going to make a friend today.
Yeah.
And it changes how I talk to people on the phone every
Dude,
time.
I so love that. I think I have something like that in prospecting in the book I wrote. Is it's all it just the attitude is I'm gonna make friends. right? I'm going to make friends, right? And because you're likable, why, and people like you already have friends, so why not just take that momentum and say, I'll make more, not that people are going to hate me because I'm interrupting their day, right? It's just such a, the attitude has so much to bear on our success or not.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's where that after action report and that awareness comes into play is when you hang up the phone, go, ooh, that one just didn't feel very good. Then you ask yourself, why didn't it feel good?
Yeah.
I didn't try to make a friend.
Yeah.
I just try to get a lead and see if they needed to buy or sell a home, or if they needed coaching, or just some element where it became transactional, me trying to take something from them versus having a valuable interaction.
Yeah. So great. So even in a conversation, right? When you're having a conversation with somebody, you could think dollar signs and say, "Well, this person has a nice home. Sure hope I get the listing. What am I going to do with the money when I get it?" Right? I mean, it's like our brain can take us down this stupid road,
Yep.
and we're not even paying attention to the person. So the person could say something that's really key to getting that sale, which is the listening, right? And we could miss it because we're thinking about, I really want this. It's going to help. I'm going to be able to take that vacation. I'm going to be able to pay this bill. And we lose sight of the person that is directly in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what's
Yep.
your thought on that?
Yeah. It's be where your feet are.
Ah, good.
Multiple people have said that. So I don't know where it originally
Yeah.
came into play. It just resonates so much for me is just be where your feet are. And that's one lesson that my dad taught me is the person, and he did this for a specific reason. He's like, there's nobody more important than the person on the other end of the other side of the counter getting ready to hand you money. He said, because that in retail, that's when the transaction happens,
Mm-hmm.
is, and that's where customer service comes into play. And you're not seeing much of that now. Is I need to feel connected to Harry. And if you're on the other side of the counter, I'm getting ready to buy something from you because I want it. I at least want you to feel like I want to feel like I'm being appreciated. And so he would say, let the phone ring because they're probably just asking how long you're open or
Mm-hmm.
when do you close. He's like, they'll call back. But that person that's right there in front of you is the most important person because they are getting ready to give you something and you need to make sure that they feel like you care.
Yeah.
And you always have a smile on your face. You say thank you say come back, did you find everything that you need? And you see so many of that in our society today. Go to the grocery store. Which transaction feels the best? The one where the cashier and the person that's bagging your groceries are having a conversation with each other, and you just hit the button, they rip off the receipt, hand it to you, and they never even acknowledge you? Or is it the one that stops like, hey, you got plans today? Did you find everything
Mm-hmm.
you need? And
Yeah.
whether they're just saying that or not is okay. Now I feel involved, I feel connected
Sure.
to those people, and so I want to go back. And that's where I think it's, and I understand why this self checkout is a challenge. We're getting further and further away from these connections and just want everything barcoded. And I want somebody, if I need something, to be able to ask. And you know local grocery store chain growing up, and they don't do it as much as they used to, but if you ask them where something was and they were stocking a shelf, they stopped what they were doing and they walked you to that aisle and they walked you to that item. Now it's just like it's over on aisle 6.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I guess I'm getting old. I'm like, I remember when they would take me over there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it depends on the culture,
Yeah,
but
I think I
yeah,
went on a rant, Harry. I
right. No, it's
apologize.
great, but I mean, it's just so true, and there's elements that we can apply, and this is one of the things that I really love in sales that most people miss out is that they think post sit at the end of the sale is the end, right? But it's the client experience, right? Where you go in, whatever the grocery store is, where you say, man, these people are just great. I do that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of a certain huge grocery store chain in Florida because they're everywhere. They dominate the market. I like the small mom and pop. But when I go in there, the people are so dang nice versus some of the other places. I'm like, all right, I'm going to come back just because you're asking me about the weekend. You're giving me an experience that's different. And yeah, I'll pay a few extra dollars for that experience where I'm feeling good about it versus, I'm a number. And as dumb as that may sound about the grocery store, think about how that applies in our business, right? Whether it be coaching, real estate, or whatever. Final thoughts on that, Jeff? Or what's your final thoughts? Did I miss anything today you wanted to bring out?
You did not. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think it's great that you're doing something like this to bring light to what most people think as a sales career, what it's like, and you're pulling back the curtain and showing that not everybody is the quote unquote used car salesman. That's just kind
Right.
of that's unfortunate for good used car salespeople that they get equated to that. But salespeople just can have a bad reputation because there are an unsavory few, but there's an unsavory few in every single career that anybody would go into. And what I would say is that when people are interacting with salespeople, and if you're in sales, treat the other person with respect, acknowledge when they've done something well, because you're learning from them. And when you see someone that does an exceptional job, just tell them that they did a good job, because
Yeah.
probably nobody ever does. They only hear the bad things. They only hear the customer complaints.
Yeah.
But just a random text, a random phone call to somebody, or just you know what, you did great today, can make a huge difference in somebody's life.
Oh, it's so good. Man, we could go on and on. Yeah, that's a hard one to end right there, but that is fantastic. Make someone's day, give them a nice compliment. Jeff Forrester, where can the masses find you, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram. So my personal account is Jeff, the number 4 Esther. So Jeff Forrester. And then I have 2 other accounts that they can get to. I don't want to clutter up the how people can find me, but I have one that's specific to coaching and one that's specific to real estate. So if they have a desire for either one of those or just want to follow me directly, I'm perfectly okay with that.
We'll put that in the show notes. And by all means, Jeff brings the value, ladies and gentlemen. So get in touch with this guy. Follow him at least. He's a salt of the earth character. And, conversations like this tell us a little bit about Jeff. He's going to get it done for you, to say the least. So, Jeff, thanks for making an appearance on the Sales Made Easy podcast, my friend.
Thanks, Harry.
Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss Sales Made Easy.